So, this one's going to be about unwanted and automatic thoughts, since this is actually something that has to be talked about and is hopefully also going to be something that a lot of people are benefiting from. And therefore, more after the intro. And with that being said, hello and welcome back to the next episode of the Self-Development with Tactics fucking podcast. And I'm pumped. I'm really pumped, especially because I believe, as I said, that it is truly important to talk about these things, since mental health and mental health problems is a pretty interesting thing in society, unfortunately, since a lot of people still think that if you're having mental problems, that you are just not really high in society. You couldn't really be high in society with mental problems and whatnot, and everyone just has a look at you like you're fucking insane and whatnot, which should really not be the case, and which should really be changed. And talking about those things and writing about those things, as the guys from TED did, which is amazing, is just one of the first steps to just change culture and change how people think about these things and how people are interacting with these things as well. Therefore, we're going through an article by the ideas.ted.com website. But if you actually want to listen to this whole experience or to the whole video, if you're just on YouTube, then please check out the links in the description, because there should also be a link to the podcast and to a page where you can choose where to listen the podcast on, because the podcast is on Spotify, on Stitcher, on TuneIn, basically everywhere. So please choose the platform you like the most, or basically where you're already listening to your podcast on, if you're listening to some podcast. And for all the podcast listeners, welcome. Welcome to the podcast. I'm really pumped and I'm really looking forward to that. I'm not going to read the whole one, so therefore please mind going into the description and or in the show notes to check out the podcast and the article on your own, so that you can actually have a look at it on your own and read through the whole one on your own, because and I think we'll just go straight into it. So here it is. 5 effective exercises to help you stop believing your unwanted and automatic thoughts, which is in the science section from the ideas.ted.com website. And I gotta have to say, because I've already had a look at it, it is quite nice. It really is quite nice. Most of us live with a constant stream of internal statements, criticism and comments are running through our heads, but we have a choice. We don't have to let them define us. Or our days, says psychology researcher Stephen Hayes. Here's how you can distinguish ourselves. I don't even know what this means. Disentangle, untangle, unravel, remove the knots from, unknot, unsnarl, untwist, unwind, undo. So many uns. And by the way, this article is also by Stephen C. Hayes, PhD. So he hopefully knows what he's talking about, because, you can't always be sure. But the first step in making the pivot away from believing your automatic thoughts is to become aware of just how complicated your thought processes are. And I have to say that, and I've been talking about it before as well, I believe that recognizing that something is wrong, that something is the case, that something is complicated, and that your thought process is indeed really complicated is kind of the first steps to do something about it, because if you don't see that you're, for example, having a problem, if you don't see that there is something wrong with something, then there's also no way you're going to do something about it. Just because you don't see it, just because you kind of feel like everything is okay. And indeed, not everything is okay. And so it's pretty important, as they as well point out, that you think about these things and that you have a look at these things and that you just be aware of these and try to recognize them and try to see them. Like, it's difficult. It really is difficult, especially when it is about some mental shit, because, I don't know, we can make us not see things relatively easy, I think, at my point of view. I did this exercise as soon as I woke up one morning. I was writing this book and here were my thoughts. So I think, one way to start is to give your mind free rein to think for a few minutes and then write down the string of thoughts that emerge. And so he has done that as well. And he wrote, "It's time to get up." No, it isn't. It is only 6 a.m. That's 7 hours of sleep. I need 8. And that's the goal. I feel fat. Well, birthday cake, duh. I have to eat cake on my son's birthday, maybe, but not such a big piece. I bet I'm up to 196 lbs. Shoot! By the time I run the Halloween Candy Turkey Day Gauntlet and so on and so on. So these are just some random thoughts that he wrote down. And I also have to say that writing down things and writing down how you feel, writing down what you're thinking about, having just some sort of a journal, a daily journal, can definitely indeed help you. And this is something that a lot of people are talking about and a lot of people are suggesting you to do. And I think it could really help. It could really help help to identify your patterns. It could really help identifying these thoughts that you're having, because we are not always aware of that. We are not always aware that there are some thoughts. And now it just gets again into recognizing things, that there is actually something that is really not running that smoothly or running as it should be running. Maybe, but by the way, nothing is normal, and I think nothing is abnormal, unless, like, it's strange, saying some things like it is abnormal that this and that, but, it might be normal for you, though. It's complicated, it's complicated and fucked up and whatnot. Arguing with ourselves comes naturally to most of us. In fact, the old cartoon device of a devil on one shoulder and an angel on the other is understood even by small children. We are doing that, and I think most often we might be doing that subconsciously, but I think there's constantly a debate in our heads between what we should be doing, what is the right thing. Should we be doing the right thing, or should we just be doing what is working best for us? Should we care about all the other people around us and all those things? I think there's just a constant stream of thoughts, a constant stream of thoughts that are contradicting, maybe. To get a look at how automatic and circuitous your own thinking is, take a minute to point your thoughts in one direction of your choosing. Then track them as they run their course. Write down everything you notice. After completing this exercise, repeat it 2 more times, letting your thoughts run for 1 minute each. The difference explains how diffusion exercises weaken the link between automatic thoughts and behavior. Our ability to step back from our thoughts grows stronger as we practice. Of course it does, fortunately. When we learn diffusion skills, we can take the energy of our counterproductive earning and pivot it toward learning to be gently guided by our experiences. So I do assume that these are called, like, this is not a problem of not going through the whole one. There is going to be some things that I do not understand, since it's just something from the very top of the whole article, but I'm doing that to just explain it as well, for all the people that might have been there and might have listened to one of my podcasts before where I've actually gone through the whole article. But I've seen that it is not really a fun thing for me, to read a whole thing, and I would rather do it just in post. I would rather just read the whole thing in post and then just try to go through it and remember everything that I've just been able to remember, because I think in the end, cutting everything out and cutting all the parts out where I've misread things and where I've just misunderstood things and all those kind of little small steps that really kind of disrupt, I think, at my point of view, the whole experience of the podcast. I think it's not worth it, and I would just rather go through the whole thing in post, so that I'm actually, not in post, but in just before I'm recording the episode, so that I can be sure that I understand some things and that I know what I'm talking about, because talking is way smoother than reading is. At least for me, For some people it might not, for some people it's definitely going to be the opposite, but for me it is definitely the case. It's just talking is way better than reading, in terms of the fluency, and just, I think the whole experience is also a little tiny bit better. But the first point is disobey on purpose. Let me start with one that I'm sure will seem perplexing. Just trust me. Stand up and carry a phone, book, or other object with you while you slowly walk around the room. Reading this next sentence aloud several times. Yes, read this sentence while walking. Okay, ready. Stand up, walk, read, and go. Here's the sentence. I cannot walk around this room. Keep walking. Slowly but clearly repeat that sentence as you walk at least 5 or 6 times. I cannot walk around this room. Now you can sit down again. It is such a tiny thing, isn't it? It is a tiny poke in the eye of the dictator within, which is what I call the domineering problem-solving part of our minds that is constantly suggesting results or solutions for our psychological pain, and a little tug on our superhero cape. This exercise was one of our earliest diffusion discoveries. So as the headline actually also says, disobey on purpose. That when I think this is actually a pretty interesting exercise, since you are incorporating your body and your mind, and since you're actually trying to talk your body out of the whole thing you're just doing at this point in time, because you basically tell your body, no, you can't walk, even though you are walking. And maybe this is actually a good exercise to then see how powerful these things are. And I think I'm also going to try it then and see if this is changing something, if I can somehow actually make myself feel and also believe in the fact that I am unable to walk. I don't know. I think this is actually possible. This might be done through what is it? Is it psychosis? Like It's also a therapy actually, but most often people use it in shows, because it's fun, I guess. And all those things. I don't remember. Unfortunately, I don't remember. So even the smallest demonstration that the mind's power over you is an illusion can give you significant more freedom to do hard things. You can easily build this into your life as a regular practice. Right now I'm thinking, I cannot type the sentence as I'm typing. Give your mind... By the way, I actually find it really interesting when authors write something like, I'm just at this point in time while I'm writing this, thinking this and that. Because this really kind of connects you with the person, because when I'm going through the whole text, it's only words. It's only words that somebody wrote, and it's only just something that I'm reading now. But in the end, it is actually something that somebody wrote, but this is also something that I am forgetting about. But the next thing is pretty interesting. But I really think, first of all, it's a little funny, but I still think that it's also relatively efficient and that it could also be working. Give your mind a name and listen to it politely. When we listen to another person, we choose whether we agree with that or with what they say or not. With our internal voice, we don't usually feel like we have that option to agree or disagree, but that's the posture. I like you to try talking. Research has shown that naming your mind, giving it a name other than the one you call yourself, obviously, so give it a name other than the one you call yourself, helps with this. Why? Because if your mind has a different name, it is different from you. Or it is different from you. And I kind of, as I was going through this whole one, I thought like, it just must be so funny because they're pointing out just beneath this paragraph, I call mine George. By the way, my second name is George, so I'm Christopher George Walch. By the way, if it's interesting to you, I don't know. So I call mine George. Pick any name you like. Even Mr. Mind or Mrs. Mind will do. Now say hello to your mind by using its new name. Hello, piece of shit. This was immediately what I was been thinking about. Like, if your mind is talking shit, then really being fucking unpolite and really being like, please, George, shut the fuck up. Please, fuck you and go away because I don't need you at this point in time. And this could even help, I don't know. I haven't tried it. Maybe this is also something that is going to work after several months. I don't know. It could be the case. It could really be the case. I'm not doubting that. Because it makes sense in my point of view. Because there is some sort of a distance between you and your mind then, that your mind is actually something else or somebody else since it's having another name, and it is not you basically. And I like that. It's still funny, like, please shut the fuck up now. The third one is appreciate what your mind is trying to do. Because the thing is, and this is also something that I'm always trying to point out and well, sometimes I forget about it and sometimes I forget to think about it. But it is actually the same exact thing with negative thinking. And it is also thoughts, thoughts that are controlled by your mind and whatnot. But the quote-unquote problem is that negative thoughts are not really bad. They are pretty good actually, indeed. Because our negative thoughts show us some things that we wouldn't be seeing without them. We wouldn't actually notice them without our negative thoughts. Without fear, I think we wouldn't actually kind of mind just height. We wouldn't mind certain predators or maybe predators. Some predators that eventually are predators, but we don't see them, because we are not feared, which is basically also some sort of it's not a thought, but it is a negative feeling maybe for some people. Nowadays, fear is a little bit unnecessary or got unnecessary since there is not such a lot of things that we have to be feared of and or that are really kind of predators for our lives, unless it is really like height and all those things. But I don't know, like you understand that, I guess. But like negative thoughts are really not bad. Negativity is bad. You shouldn't be negative. Negativity as such is not good. But negative thoughts are really there to show you some things, to really show you things that you wouldn't be seeing without them. If you're feeling bad after doing something, then this just makes you think. It makes you think about that certain thing. It makes you think if what you have been doing was maybe wrong. If what you have been doing was not the right thing to do, and all those things, it just makes you think, at my point of view at least, as I'm seeing it, as I'm thinking about it. Sing it, which is something that I haven't been understanding just in the first place, but yeah. This method is powerful when you are having a really sticky thought. Turn the thought into a sentence and try singing it. Again, do this out loud if you are alone in your head, if you have company. Any tune will do. My default is happy birthday. Don't worry about the wording or rhyming scheme. You're not auditioning for America's Got Talent. Just repeat your thoughts to whatever tune you choose. Now find a thought that is nagging you and try this out. Experiment with different tunes and sing it fast and slow. How will you know whether you have succeeded? It is not that the thought goes away or becomes unbelievable, it's that you can see it more clearly as just another thought. Because you're focusing on it, I guess, because you're focusing on it through singing, through just giving a lot of attention to it, through just centering it in your mind, basically. And the fifth and last one is carry it with you. Write down a recurring critical thought on a small piece of paper. Maybe it is, I'm stupid, or I'm unlovable, or I'm going to fail. After you finish writing, hold up the paper and look at it as if it were a precious and fragile page from an ancient manuscript. These words are an echo of your history. Even if the thought is painful, ask yourself if you would be willing to honor that history by choosing to carry this piece of paper with you. If you can get to yes, place it in your pocket, wallet, or bag and let it come along for the ride. During the days you carry it, every so often pat your wallet or bag or wherever you keep it to acknowledge that it is part of your journey and it is welcome to come along. And it is not a part that you hate about yourself, and that it is not a part that really is crippling you, unless I think it is actually crippling you. Then I think you shouldn't be just having it with you all the fucking time. I assume at least, this is what I think. So by practicing exercises like these, we can start laying down unhelpful thoughts and that have driven us for years. If we learn to think of our internal voice as that of an advisor rather than a dictator, it can become enormously helpful to us. We come to see that our mind itself is not bad or harmful as long as we don't let it rigidly dictate our behavior. It is a tool, and when we learn to put it on a leash, it can serve us even better. And with that being said, this is actually going to be the end of the episode, since I'm trying out to make the episodes not as long, because maybe this is just better. Maybe this is just what people want to have. I don't know. But yeah, I wish you the best health, of happiness, and also success. And I also hope that you're going to remind yourself when you're going to be remembered, which basically means your legacy. Because we can definitely just be nice people and then also being remembered as nice people. Because, it's just what nice people do. They are nice and then they are going to be remembered as nice people. The only problem there is that we are 7.7 billion people on the planet, which means that not everyone's gonna like you, which means that not everyone's gonna love you, which means that there's going to be some people that just hate you, just because it is what it is. And by the way, he's also the author of a new book called A Liberated Mind, How to Pivot Towards What Matters. By the way, and this is actually an excerpt out of the book, just because I'm reading it. And but yeah, just have that in mind. 3 other questions that I hope that you're going to ask yourself are: why are you here? What are you trying to change? And what is bothering you the most? These 3 questions are hopefully going to show you your purpose and maybe even a business idea, since a lot of companies started out with solving something that really pissed them off. And there is definitely going to be something like that in your life as well. I at least assume. So please stay subscribed to the podcast and subscribe actually if you haven't, so you do not miss out on any value, on any good information, anything that might be valuable to you. Gonna see you the next time. I at least